Hello, welcome to Starling Initiatives. I'm Neil Cole. Today I want to talk about our understanding of church, and there will be a little bit of review in this video as we make our way forward to a place where we can talk more in depth about the ingredients of what makes a church a church. But before we get started, I want to make a comment. I think that we suffer in our ecclesiology from what I like to call the Mexican food syndrome. What is a Mexican food syndrome? Let me explain. Imagine a fellow from a tribe deep in the forest of a South Pacific island, and he's never left the island, is brought to America and into your city, and to welcome him, you take him out to dinner to a Mexican food restaurant. Now, he's never heard of Mexico. He's never had Mexican food. So you sit down, he looks at the menu, he can't decide what to order. It all sounds so exotic to him. And so he asks the waiter to tell him what's in each meal. So he says, what's in a taco? Oh, a taco. Well, that's a tortilla with meat and cheese and beans. And then he says, well, then what's in a burrito? A burrito has a tortilla with meat and cheese and beans and salsa. Oh, well, okay. Then tell me, what's in an enchilada? An enchilada is a tortilla with meat and beans and cheese and salsa. And so, okay, so what's a fajita? Well, fajita, you have meat and you have tortillas, and on the side you have beans and cheese. Are you getting the picture? What's a taquito? Well, it's a tortilla with meat and cheese. And okay, so what is a tostada? Well, it's a tortilla with meat and cheese and salsa. You see, it has 5 ingredients. Everything on the menu has 5 ingredients, the same 5 ingredients. Meat, beans, cheese, salsa, and a tortilla to wrap it all up. That is the Mexican food syndrome. The church has 5 ingredients that you simply have to have every time you have a gathering, or it's not sanctified, it's not spiritual. We didn't do church. Those 5 ingredients are: you have to lead, pray, sing, give, and teach. Lead, pray, sing, give, and teach. Those are the 5 ingredients on every menu item that church has to serve. And we can't even imagine church without those 5 ingredients. Now, the word church, ecclesia, means called out ones. It occurs 100 times in the New Testament. But what you find in the New Testament is from the book of Matthew on through to Revelation, the word itself takes on more and more formalized meaning as we go. At first, it simply means the assembly of God's people, or even in the book of Acts, that word is used to describe an angry mob gathered together, worshiping a pagan god and asking for the head of the Apostle Paul. It seems like I've been to that church before, maybe you have as well, but the word seems to evolve and go further into the New Testament to become the family of God, the household of God, the household of faith, and it becomes the pillar and support of truth, and eventually it becomes the body of Christ and the bride of Christ, and it takes on a more and more formal meaning as we go on. So, what is a church? Well, in today's language, if you look up in Webster's, it will say it's a building where people do religious activity. But of course, in the New Testament, they never had a building to meet in. For 200 years plus, they didn't have a building to meet in. So it's not a church, it's not a building in the New Testament. It's not an organization with bylaws and a board of directors. It's not a business that's offering spiritual goods and services to a spiritual market share of the community. It's not that. It's not an event that takes place between the hours of 10 and noon on Sunday. These are all things that church are to us, yes, but they are not church according to the New Testament. If we want to go to the New Testament, perhaps the better question to ask is not what is a church, but what makes a church a church? What are the ingredients that you have to have for it to be a church? Most theologians and pastors approach defining church this way as just a list of ingredients. They pick from the New Testament what they want to put together, and it varies, but it also has a lot of commonalities here. So in my own denomination, there are 5 ingredients. My friend Ed Stetzer, he put forward that there are 6 ingredients that he puts on his list. My German friend Christian Schwartz, who wrote Natural Church Development, he talks about 8 essential elements of a church. Mark Devers, who wrote a book called The 9 Marks of the New Testament Church. So here's a summary of the ingredients that are typically listed in all of these lists. A gathering together of believers who consider themselves a church. That way they're not a parachurch, right? Whatever a parachurch is, that's not in the New Testament either. They meet under installed, qualified biblical eldership. They preach and teach the scriptures. They lead the people in baptism, communion, and sometimes some would include church discipline on the list. They agree upon doctrinal positions. They have a missional or evangelistic purpose. See what I mean? It's a list of ingredients. The greatest flaw that you can see is that what's not on the list. Jesus did not make the list. It's sad, but he's not considered essential element or ingredient in what we call church. The preacher made the list. The qualified elder made the list. The teacher made the list, but Jesus did not make the list. And I just think that's a little bit humorous, but also a little bit sad. If you can define church without Jesus, then you can do church without Jesus, and we do that. We need to make Jesus not only one of the ingredients, but the most essential ingredient of church. Yeah. Without Jesus, the bride has no groom. The body has no head. The flock is wolf chow. The branch is firewood. The building has no foundation and it collapses. Jesus is the main ingredient of church. He's the only difference in our lives that makes church worth anything. And you know what? Jesus is such a much better ingredient to offer to the world than us and our preaching and our teaching and our baptism and our communion. Those things are not bad. They are not the essential ingredient. Now, the question we also need to ask is, if we approach the New Testament, is there a list of ingredients mentioned to make up a church? And I believe there is. And then in the next video, we will look at that. Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. And if you like it, that would be great. Just hit like, listen to Jesus, and do what he says.